Welcome to this challenge for the Read analog voltage tutorial. I am sure that you did the challenge yourself before you're looking at this. That way, it really facilitates your learning a lot more. But let's go ahead and jump in. So the first question was, what happens if we change from using the 5-volt pin on the Arduino to the 3.3 volt? So all I've done on my Arduino board is I pull out the jumper wire from 5 volt, move it over to 3.3. I'm going to leave my code exactly as it is, and then I'm going to go ahead and upload it. And then we'll just see what happens. Once it's uploaded, I will go ahead and serial monitor. So let's see, I'm down here at 0, I go all the way up, it maxes out at 3.32. So that's pretty stinking awesome. I mean, I didn't have to change a piece of that code, and that conversion worked just fine. So why might that be? Well, let's think about it for a second. So normally we would have 0 to 5 volt range, and 5 volts would relate to 1023 units when we used the analog read function. And then we used our conversion, and we were able to turn 1023 to actually output the voltage. So now we're applying 3.3 volts, so the most we're going to get from our analog read is 675. So basically those two proportions, 5 is to 1023 is 3.3 is to 675. Those proportions stay the same, and that's why we don't have to change anything in that conversion. Okay, so that's that challenge. That was like stinking pretty easy. Okay, so what is the next challenge? The next challenge was, well, let's throw voltage out the window. What if we don't care about reading voltage? What if we're more interested in just getting an output from 0 to 100? So when I have my potentiometer all the way open, when I'm actually applying 5 volts to that pin, I want my output to be 100. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and move my jumper wire from 3.3 volts back to 5 volts. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mess around with these numbers a little bit. So now I need to ask myself, well, what would give me 100? What would give me 100? Now, there's a couple ways we could approach it. But the way I actually approached this is I just messed around with the conversion factor. I didn't use any brain power. I just used brute, stupid force. And sometimes, that kind of works. So if I just happened to say, I said, well, what if I change 5 with 100? What would happen? So, well, there's only one way to find out. Let's verify the code. Let's upload it. And then let's serial monitor. Oh, hey, look at that, 100. Hey, the output's 100. So there's 0, 100. That was pretty easy. The lesson here is that sometimes, you're trying to use your brain to figure out values or equations and that type of thing. And sometimes it's just quicker to kind of experiment around. Just to try some numbers. And maybe you think you're on the right track, but you're not sure. Well, throw in that number that you think might be right and give it a shot. Because just throwing that dart sometimes can be at least a starting point for whether that calculation you had in your mind was totally off, or maybe there's somewhere in that direction to pursue. So that's this challenge. Thanks again for listening. I can't wait to see you in the next tutorial. Take it easy.